All right, if you geek out about all things Marvel, which, by the way, if you're alive, if you have a pulse, you probably do. You probably, no doubt, love the works of Stan Lee, and now it's being celebrated. ABC's Chris Conley. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
So this special, if you like all things Marvel, and chances are if you like all things Marvel, then you are no doubt connected to the Stan Lee universe. You are going to love this. We're celebrating this man's lives. And talk about the talk about the stars that are coming by to be a part of this. Talk about the long list of celebrities that have connected to this guy that'll be a part.
Well, you know, so many people know Stan Lee from his cameos in the Marvel movies and his role as kind of the happy warrior of Marvel. And you'll see a lot of those guys, Tom Hiddleston and folks like that, talking about Stan on this particular show. But the thing that's fascinating is to go back and to realize that these characters are the creations of Stan Lee. That in the 60s, he had this insight that comics had to be more relevant. They had to tap into the feelings and the insecurities of the people who read them. And so in characters like Spider-Man, or the Fantastic Four, Black Panther, the X-Men, he tapped in to the insecurities, the anxieties, the challenges that young people were going through, drew on the foment of the 1960s and created these characters that felt real, even amid their superpowers, to a whole generation of young people. So it's not really surprising that so many years later, these same characters rule the cinematic universe, all thanks to Stan Lee.
And he was so unassuming. I've had a chance to talk to him a couple of times, and I said, did you in your wildest dreams think that we would be talking 10, 20, 30, in fact, as you mentioned, 7 decades later, that they would be not only relevant, that you couldn't touch any point of the world without seeing your own work? And he said, come on, how could I see that coming?
I think his enthusiasm was so infectious on his co-workers and on the people who read the comic books. You know, he would address the readers in Stan Lee's soapbox for years in those comic books, and they felt like they knew him. Stan would introduce people to him and introduce the people who had made these comics to the readers, and so they really felt connected. And one of the things that's made the Marvel Cinematic Universe so successful is that they are loyal to that devoted fan. They really put that devoted fan first in all those movies they made, and that was something new in terms of superhero films. So it's the spirit of Stan Lee that animates these wildly successful movies that dominate the pop culture landscape, and it all goes back to his remarkable creativity and his belief in the power of that fan.
Not only am I a fanboy, but I'm a fanboy of the fanboys. Kevin Smith can do no wrong. I know that he not only became friends with Stan Lee, but he makes an appearance tonight. What can we expect? Talk about some of the big celebrity moments tonight.
Well, it's great to hear Kevin Smith talk about like how much Stan Lee's work has meant to him. We get to hear Method Man from the Wu-Tang Clan talking about how important Stan Lee's work was to him. And Jimmy Kimmel even shows you a drawing that he made of Stan Lee back when he was in grade school. So it's really remarkable to see this disparate group of people all somehow touched by Stan Lee's creativity. They felt part of a tribe, kind of. Stan Lee made them feel like they were all in this together. Before there was the internet, before there was social media, they were a band of brothers and sisters, the people who loved Marvel. And now they rule the universe. It all started with Stan Lee's creativity.
Now, have you noticed that most Stan Lee, most Marvel fans will sit quietly like they're in church while watching the movie, but that moment you see the Stan Lee cameo, everybody goes, hey, or you hear him shout his name.
Yeah, I know, and I think we're all kind of wondering what movies will be like when we don't get to see those fresh cameos from Stan anymore. But his spirit shines over all these films. That happy, creative, positive spirit, the thing he really embodied. He made people proud to love these characters and to love comics, and people hadn't always felt that way. And that spirit continues to animate these movies, and just like you say, create that buzz of joy that seems to go through the audience at every Marvel movie these days.
No doubt you're a fan. If I were to ask you, what's your favorite Stan Lee character or your favorite Stan Lee character moment?
I still go back to Spider-Man. I think that's still like that's like his great first album. Like that's the moment when he had the great insights. Let's create a character who's in high school. Let's focus on all of the high schoolers' insecurities. Let's create a guy who really lives in the actual New York, not just in Gotham or in Metropolis, but in New York City. And let's make him part of the world that the people who are reading this comic book feel like. to have picked up all that and then to realize that he was onto something special, I think that's the beginning, the seed of the idea that blossomed into the Marvel Cinematic Universe and that made everything happen from where we are now. That's the moment he sort of became the Walt Disney of comic books.
Yeah, that's right. And I love that he got to see, I had a chance to interview him and both hear him interviewed about the current incarnation of Spider-Man. And I'm glad that you touched on that because he said it's the closest that any of the movies have come to representing his exact vision, where he was trying to come up with something in the comic universe that could compete on the superhero level with the Archie comics, and nailed it with Spider-Man. Hey, I can't wait to see the special tonight. Thanks for sharing it with us. Thanks for all you do to cover the entertainment world.
Greatly appreciate your time. Thank you.